Welcome to the Higher Power Podcast, presented by Higher Power Sports PT, the show dedicated to helping active individuals like you unlock your full potential through expert insights on injury prevention, performance enhancement, and recovery. Kurt Kessler is a board-certified specialist in sports physical therapy and an athletic trainer. In each episode, he and his guests bring you the latest evidence-based strategies to help you move better, feel stronger, and stay injury-free. Let's learn together.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Higher Powered Podcast. You'll notice anybody who's watching, I'm a little off-center today. That's because we're going to have some graphics today. I've found that the topic that I'm talking about is usually understood a little bit better when there's something to look at or some kind of graphic form. So I'm going to sit off to the side so I can plop some graphics up here today. So the topic today is going to be stress capacity. And this is a topic that I learned from Ray Gorman. He was on this podcast before. He was my first and only business coach. And he took this model, this idea, and he adapted it from the idea of the biopsychosocial model, which basically describes injury and illness from a holistic view of examining a lot of factors in life. Now, why does this matter? Well, it's just a different way of explaining to people how or why injury and illness happen. I'm going to filter this through an athletic lens because that's the population that I work with, but it also applies to illness as well. So what is stress capacity? It's the body's threshold or capacity to perform work before injury happens. The longer time spent over that threshold, the more likely injury is to occur. Now, let's consider things that push us to or over that threshold. I'm going to add the graphics here for the video experience to help illustrate. For anybody on audio, I'm going to be adding some boxes vertically until they hit or exceed a dotted line, which in this case is the threshold. So we start at the very bottom here with our baseline. This includes our anatomy. We're all made a little bit differently. Our past injuries that we've had, any medical conditions that we've had or currently have, all the stuff that make up your athletic baseline that cannot be changed. Some people's baseline boxes are bigger than others. Everyone's a little bit different. And then the next box we add on top of that is what Ray started calling the client attribute profile. Now, this stuff is what we can measure. It's what we can change. In this box, we look at how joints are moving. We look at range of motion. We look at strength, endurance, lifestyle, movement technique for different exercises, and your mindset towards those exercises or towards rehab in general or towards life in general. So, for example, someone who scores really well on all of these things will have a smaller box. The more stuff we have to address, the larger the box is because it leaves more room for potential injury. And then on top of that, then we add a box for internal stress. That's the stuff that we're carrying with us: anxiety, relationships, homework, test results, work deadlines, all that kind of stress that we hold inside, or stuff that kind of determines a little bit of our stress outlook. And you can kind of see in this graphic here, we are inching closer to that threshold, and we haven't even exercised yet. Now we add in exercise, training, games. For some people, that's multiple practices or multiple games. And now you see we are over the dotted line. The longer the time spent over this threshold, the more likely it is for injury to occur. Now, you may have heard me talk about this previously, but this is the reason I seek the minimal effective dose. My favorite analogy for this is if you have a headache, why don't you take 10 Advil? Because you know you're increasing your risk for adverse effects. Instead, you take 1 or 2 because you know that's the least that you can take where it'll alleviate your headache, but not cause you a bunch of concern or a bunch of risk for harm by taking more. And then with exercise, it's the same thing. If you overdose on exercise, you're doing too much, too fast for too long, then you're really inviting yourself to some adverse effects in the form of pain or injury. So what we are really looking for in rehab and training is the minimal effective dose. What is the minimal amount of exercise that we can prescribe that will make the change that we want to make without overdosing? And sometimes you don't know that line until you cross it. There are a couple real life examples here that I'll share with you. The easy one, a non-specific one, there have been a number of times in my life where my sleep quality is poor, or the double whammy of having high stress that causes me to lose sleep, and then 2 days later I'm coming down with an illness. A physical example for me, and I've talked about this before on here, when I was in high school playing soccer, over the summer I was not punting and taking 50 goal kicks every day all summer. But then in preseason, we start practicing, and then I'm doing like 50 a day. And every year, I'd end up with a strained hip flexor because I ended up doing too much, too fast for too long. Another one in my adult life, my youngest son was born just over a year ago. And when he was born, I would say that's naturally a stressful time. He was born at 5:30 in the morning. Our family had a long day at the Baltimore Aquarium the day before. Then my wife coached in a basketball game that night, and we had just gone to bed, and her water broke. So we were going on like 30 hours without sleep. And all of a sudden, over the next day or so, I was holding this 7-pound baby for hours at a time. And even at a light weight of 7 pounds, it's not like I was walking around for hours throughout the day holding a 7-pound dumbbell with my biceps on the entire time prior to him being born. So for the first few days after he was born, I was dealing with some wicked biceps tendon pain anytime I moved my arm. And that's the same idea here. You have the stress and unaccustomed exercise or unaccustomed work for the musculoskeletal system, and then it results in pain because my biceps tendon was not adapted for that. So now getting back to the stress capacity model, we need to find ways to keep our boxes under that dotted line. There are two ways to do that. You either decrease the stress or you increase the threshold. And when we do this right, we actually do both at the same time. But before I get to that, here's where we all go wrong. We go over the dotted line, we experience pain, we stop activity or exercise because it hurts. Therefore, it shrinks our external stress box to get below that dotted line. We feel better. We go back to the same level of activity. We go over the line. Then we get pain. Then we stop exercise. And it becomes this really terrible cycle. And through these injuries or pain, our client attribute profile box gets bigger because we are likely losing range of motion or strength. And then we are both raising that box and lowering the dotted line because we're not exercising. That client attribute profile box, that is the one that we affect with treatment. As we improve range of motion or improve strength or improve efficiency of movement, that box shrinks because we clean up the things that push us closer to injury. We can teach stress management techniques that can potentially shrink that internal stress box. We can educate on proper dosing to influence the external stress box. Now with the progressive overload and building tissue capacity, the remote portion of my program, over time that pushes that threshold or that dotted line higher. So now we are shrinking the boxes and raising the ceiling so that when stress pops up, when you have a harder workout or even just have to do something hard physically out of necessity, you're not constantly flirting with that line and tipping into pain or injury. Now we've managed stress the best that we can, and look at all the buffer now we have to train, live, and grow. I've described kind of the ideal scenario and progression. It doesn't always happen this easily because there are a lot of factors to manage. This result takes a lot of mental effort on my part and a lot of effort and discipline on the athlete's part or the client's part. And this change does not happen overnight. This takes several months to a year to implement, and perfect. But I just want to set realistic expectations because it can be done. And again, no one is perfect. Injuries can still happen because there's no way to fully prevent them. But these principles are based on the best sports science we have right now. That's really the bones of what my treatment philosophy is based on. If you're struggling to stay pain-free with life or exercise, or if you notice this pain cycle pattern in your life and you want to stop it, this is your notice. My contact information is in the show notes. Send me an email or a DM, and we can jump on a call to see if what I do could be the answer for you. If it is, bingo. If it's not, I will do my best to find someone who has the answers for you. That's going to do it for today's episode of the Higher Power Podcast. Thank you to all for listening. If you're looking for ways to connect, you can find so in the show notes or find me on Instagram at Higher Power Sports PT. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.
That's a wrap for today's episode of the Higher Powered Podcast, presented by Higher Powered Sports PT. We hope you gained valuable insights on how to stay strong, move better, and prevent injury, all backed by expert knowledge in sports physical therapy and athletic training. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. Your support helps us bring more evidence-based tips and strategies to active individuals just like you. For more resources or to connect with us, head over to hpsportspt.com. That's hpsportspt.com. Remember, you've got the power to perform at your best. Keep training smarter, recovering faster, and living stronger. Just a reminder that the content shared in this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It should not be considered medical advice. Always consult with a qualified healthcare professional before making any changes to your health or treatment plan. Thanks for tuning in. We hope to see you next time on the Higher Powered Podcast.